Most people never reach their goals not because they lack talent, but because they wait for motivation to strike. Discipline isn't a feeling, it's a decision. When you force yourself to move forward, even when you're tired, uninspired, or afraid, you build unstoppable momentum. Success begins the moment you stop negotiating with comfort and start commanding your actions with purpose. In a few moments, I will teach you how to force action, break limits, and achieve goals. No matter how you feel, you will never feel ready, but act anyway. You sit on the edge of your dreams, waiting for a signal, a feeling, a sign that today is the day to begin. But it doesn't come, does it? You wait for clarity, for energy, for a wind of inspiration to push you forward, but nothing arrives. That's because readiness is a lie comfort tells the hesitant. And you, my friend, are not here to be comfortable. What separates those who rise from those who rust is action, not confidence, not education, not even timing. Action. You must act while your hands tremble, while your mind doubts, while your heart stutters. Force yourself to begin. One step, one swing, one line. Not because it's perfect, but because it's time. That's the truth the winners know. The clock will never give you permission. You must seize it. Can you picture yourself walking into a room where every face is older, wiser, more experienced, and still holding your head high because you've decided to act as if you belong? That's power. And power grows the moment you move before the doubt fades, before the confidence forms. Ask yourself, have you been waiting for a feeling to guide you? Have you allowed inaction to disguise itself as preparation? Have you let days pass because your courage hadn't arrived yet? If so, it's time to break that chain. Begin now. Not because you're ready, but because greatness never consults comfort. It demands obedience. You are the architect of your outcome, and the cornerstone is laid the moment you act. If you don't decide, life will decide for you. There is a quiet war happening inside you. One side demands motion, the other whispers excuses. But here's the truth. If you do not decide who you are, life will do it for you. Indecision is not harmless. It is not neutral. It is surrender. Each day you fail to declare your intention, you give the world permission to shape your path. You become a leaf on the wind of circumstance instead of the hand that shapes it. You must force yourself to decide, to say, this is who I am, this is what I want, and I will pursue it, even when I am tired, even when I am afraid. Can you recall a time when you let hesitation make the call? When you knew what to do, but you waited and lost the moment? You see, your mind is powerful, but it obeys only the voice of decisiveness. Picture a general standing before his troops, unsure of the plan. What happens? Chaos, confusion, weakness. Now picture the same general planting his sword in the ground, declaring his intent. Suddenly fear fades. Order rises. That's you when you decide. Ask yourself, what dream have you delayed with your silence? What goal have you buried under the weight of maybe? You cannot afford maybe. Life moves quickly. The tide shifts fast. Decide now. Even a flawed decision acted upon carries more power than waiting for the perfect one. You are the commander of your fate, but only if you act like it. Speak your mission, live it daily, and do not look back. Discipline is the bridge between dreams and achievement. Desire is common. Discipline is rare. That's why success belongs to the few. You can dream all night, but if your feet do not move in the morning, your dream is just a ghost. Discipline is not about harshness. It is about alignment. When your actions align with your vision, daily, without negotiation, you cross the bridge between the invisible. Many men fail not because they lack talent, but because they waited for motivation. Motivation is a guest. Discipline is a soldier. Imagine waking in the cold, your body resisting, your thoughts tempting you to stay warm. But you rise anyway. You move, you write, you train. That moment, right there, is where champions are born. You do not need to feel good to do good. You need only to obey your higher self. So ask yourself, what does your routine say about your destiny? Are your habits dragging you forward or backward? The disciplined man becomes his own master. He doesn't rely on mood, he commands himself. He forces himself. Build your discipline like a blacksmith sharpens a blade. Repetition, pressure, fire. Each act of discipline makes you sharper, stronger, more capable of carving your path. Discipline is not a punishment, it is your passport. Without it, your dream remains locked. With it, you hold the key. You must become the person who deserves your goal. A goal is more than a target, it is a test. It does not ask, what do you want? It demands, who are you willing to become? The world is filled with men who wish. Fewer are the men who transform. They stare at their ambitions like distant mountains, yet never build the muscle to climb. They want the view without the ascent, but the truth is brutal and beautiful. The goal is not far away. It's just on the other side of who you are right now. Look closely. That dream you speak of, that promotion, that respect, that wealth, that peace, it's a reflection, a mirror of the man who must exist to receive it. And if the man you are today is not ready, that dream will not bow to your longing. It will wait, not because it's cruel, but because it is precise. Only when you become the version of yourself worthy of the dream will the dream move toward you. Most men want more without becoming more. They hope to lead, but refuse to study leadership. They crave wealth, but resist becoming valuable. They demand loyalty, but never master their own integrity. And then they complain that life is unfair. But life isn't unfair, it is mathematical. It rewards those who are willing to become what their goal demands. It is not about wishing harder, it is about working deeper. So force yourself. Not because it feels good, but because it is necessary. Rise when comfort whispers sleep. Read when the world is scrolling. Move when doubt says wait. Speak less so you can learn more. Build habits so solid that even your worst days are better than most people's best. Success is not a surprise. It is a signal that you have aligned your character with your calling. Picture a man entering a hall filled with kings. He has no crown, no robe, no title, but his walk is firm, his eyes are calm, his silence speaks louder than shouts. Why? Because he became the man before he was recognized. The crown is not what made him ready, his preparation did. So now ask yourself honestly, have you prepared? Have you practiced greatness in private before expecting it in public? Look at your day, your habits, your attitude. Are you sculpting yourself into the version that can hold the weight of your own dream? Or are you hoping to receive something you have not yet earned? Do not wait for permission. Do not beg for opportunity. Create it, become it, and the dream that once felt distant will come closer, not because it changed, but because you did. You do not chase greatness, you rise to meet it. The world respects the man who moves without applause. You wait for recognition like it's a permission slip to begin, as if the world must first say, well done, before you take the first step. But here's the truth. Greatness does not begin with noise. It begins in silence. It's born in the shadows, in the still hours, in the places where no one claps and no one cares. Yet you show up anyway, not for them, for you, because something inside you knows that what you build in solitude becomes what others will one day admire. The man who learns to act without needing applause is the man who will one day be applauded, but not because he begged, not because he chased it, because he became undeniable, too excellent to overlook, too disciplined to be ignored. While others waited for attention, he earned it. Quietly, there is a kind of power that builds in silence. Not the kind that roars, not the kind that boasts, but the kind that grows deep roots. It doesn't ask for validation, it creates it. And the world, which once overlooked you, will come asking where your strength came from. But by then, you won't need their approval. You already know. Most people underestimate the weight of consistent, unseen effort. They think the crowd follows noise, but the truth is it follows substance. People are drawn to what feels real, and real value is forged in the quiet of early mornings, the quiet of rejection, the quiet of being overlooked but not broken. Think back. Have there been moments where you held back your gift, your fire, just because no one was watching? Did you wait for someone to tell you your work mattered before you gave it everything? If so, understand this. The most important eyes on you are your own. If you can't impress yourself in the dark, you won't impress anyone in the light. Picture a man building a cathedral. Day after day, he lays stone on stone. Alone, no fanfare, no crowd, just sweat, just vision, just unshakable commitment. And years later, people travel across the world to marvel at what he built. They praise the beauty, but they never saw the labor. They never heard the silence. But he did, and he kept building anyway. That's who you must become, the one who moves even when unseen, the one who acts with weight and purpose, because recognition isn't the goal, character is. So ask yourself, are you shrinking your effort just because no one's clapping? Or are you growing your power where no one's looking? Those destined to lead never wait to be noticed. They train themselves to rise when it's quiet. They witness their own growth. They set their own standard. And then, When the world finally sees them, they're not surprised, because they were never waiting. They were becoming. Be your own witness, and the world will follow. Comfort is a thief, dressed as a friend. Comfort never announces itself as the enemy. It doesn't march in like fear or scream like failure. No, it whispers. It leans in gently and says, "You've done enough." It strokes your ego and tells you, "You've earned this." It sounds kind, reasonable, even deserved. And that's what makes it dangerous. Because while you sit there basking in the illusion of having arrived, your dream quietly starts to gather dust. This is the trap. Comfort doesn't take anything from you. It simply waits for you to stop moving, and once you do, it pulls up a chair beside you and it keeps you company. For a while, it feels good. You rest, you breathe, but then you stay. And before long, your days blur, the urgency fades, your fire cools, and that vision that once set your soul ablaze, it becomes a faded picture hanging in the background of your life. The man who builds something great, who finishes what he starts, is not a man who never rests. He is a man who controls comfort, not one who is controlled by it. He knows that comfort is earned, not owed. He understands that rest is sacred only when effort has been sacred first. He pushes through the moments when ease tempts him, not because it's wrong to rest, but because he knows the cost of resting too soon, too often, and too long. Think of a time when you gave in to ease, when the hard task could have been tackled, but you chose to delay, when the workout could have been done, but you chose the couch. How did you feel afterward? Maybe you felt a flash of relief, but underneath it, was there regret? A sense of something shrinking inside you? That's the soul recoiling from the choice you made, not because you rested, but because you abandoned the climb. Now picture another man. It's raining, cold, he's exhausted, but he trains. Not because it's dramatic, not because someone's watching, but because his standard is not negotiable. While others retreat into comfort, he presses forward into discomfort. And it is this very refusal to bend to ease that makes him sharp, focused, unstoppable, not because he is naturally more talented, but because he's trained himself to choose pain when pain is what the moment requires. So ask yourself honestly, who has been coaching you lately? Discipline or comfort? Has comfort dressed itself up as balance, as self-care, as you deserve it, while quietly robbing you of the man you are becoming? You don't need to become a machine. You don't need to burn out, but you do need to draw the line, because comfort, when left unchecked, will become your silent captor, and it will dress your failure in soft, convincing excuses. Force yourself to lean into what's hard. Train your body when it's tired. Sit down to work when your mind drifts. Make the call, write the page, do the thing, especially when you'd rather not. Because that resistance, that hesitation, that's the very place where strength is born. And remember, the man who conquers comfort doesn't just conquer fatigue or laziness, he conquers the voice that says later. He conquers the temptation to stay small. He conquers himself. And once you do that, there's nothing left you can't conquer. Time is not repeating, it is running out. You move through your days as if they're unlimited, as if there's a never-ending stream of mornings waiting to greet you. You tell yourself you'll start tomorrow, that you'll commit when the time is right, that the opportunity will return. But time doesn't work like that. It doesn't pause for your hesitation. It doesn't rewind when you change your mind. It only moves forward, always forward. And every second you waste is a second gone forever. You are not promised another sunrise. You are not guaranteed another breath. And yet, you treat time like it owes you, as if you've signed some secret contract that grants you more chances, more tomorrows, more slack. That is the great lie. Time owes you nothing. It is not loyal. It is not merciful. It simply is here, now, and then gone. Every day you postpone your purpose, you pay with a piece of your life you will never get back. Think of each day as a coin, not one you can save, not one you can earn more of, just one. Fresh each morning, gone each night, and you get to choose. Spend it wisely or throw it away on distractions, doubts, and delay. Most people waste their days like spare change, tossing them toward comfort, toward numbing, toward avoidance. And then one day they look up and the pile is gone. No warning, no refill, just the cold silence of too late. Picture this. An hourglass sits on your table. The sand slips through, grain by grain. You don't know how many grains are left in the top, but you feel the weight of those that have already fallen. You can feel the thinning. And yet, what do? You scroll. You second guess, you sleep in, you wait for clarity, as if clarity is some package that will arrive when you're finally ready. But time doesn't care about your clarity. It continues. Indifferent to your indecision, ask yourself, what if you were told you had 1 year to live, just one? Would you still delay the hard work? Would you still wait to have that conversation, to write the book, to take the risk? No, you wouldn't. You'd act. You'd cut the excuses. You'd move like your life depended on it, because it would. So why do you need that kind of news to wake up? Why wait until the clock is nearly empty before you begin to take your days seriously? The truth is, the fire you're waiting for, the urgency, the drive, it's already there. It's just buried beneath your belief in someday. But someday is a mirage. It doesn't exist. There is only today, only this moment. Time will not wait for your fears to pass. It will not pause while you decide. It will not bend to your hesitation. It moves, and it takes your life with it. The only question is, are you moving with it or being left behind? Force yourself to act today, not because it's easy, not because it's perfect, but because today is all you truly have. You are not immortal. You are not exempt. And if your dream matters, you must stop treating your time like it's infinite. Spend today like it's sacred, because it is. You do not rise to your goals. You fall to your standards. It's not your ambition that shapes your future. Ambition is easy. Anyone can sit in silence and dream big. Anyone can talk about greatness, sketch out grand plans, and say the right words. But those things on their own build nothing. It's not what you dream that defines you. It's what you demand, what you accept as normal, what you allow yourself to do or not do on the average quiet day when no one's watching. That is what sculpts your future. Your standard is your true ceiling. And it doesn't shout. It whispers in the smallest moments, in the hour you choose to rise, in the effort you give after fatigue hits, in the promises you keep to yourself when the world offers you an easy way out. It's not the size of your goal that separates you, it's the firmness of your line. What you refuse to compromise, what you say must be done, not for applause, not for reward, but because it is the expectation you set for the man you're becoming. The man who wins is not always the one with the biggest vision. He's the one who will not lower the bar, not even once. He gets up before he's rested. He stays focused after the thrill is gone. He puts in more than is required, not because he has to, but because that's who he is. His standard does not adjust to his mood. His standard directs his mood. Imagine two men, same dream, same goal. One wakes at 5 because he's afraid of missing out. He pushes through his morning routine like it's a duty. He does what needs to be done so he can say he did it. The other wakes at 5 because sleeping in would violate his identity. It would feel like betrayal. His effort isn't a task, it's a reflection of the kind of man he's chosen to become. They look the same from the outside, but only one of them is truly dangerous because his standard is non-negotiable. Now look inward. Be honest. What have you tolerated this week that your future self will regret? What small corners have you cut and justified? Maybe it was skipping a session. Maybe it was giving half your focus. Maybe it was speaking when silence would have shown more strength. These moments may seem small, but they're not. Each one is a seed, and every seed you plant grows into something, whether it's discipline or decay. You won't stumble into greatness. You won't luck your way into strength. You will only rise as high as your lowest standard allows. So ask yourself, not what your goal is, but what you refuse to do. What kind of behavior is beneath you? What level of effort is unacceptable, even if no one sees it? This is not about perfection. It's about alignment. When your standards rise, everything else follows. Your posture changes, your tone sharpens, your energy becomes unmistakable. You stop entertaining distractions because you've decided that your life is worth more. You stop needing motivation because your expectation becomes your engine. Raise your standards, not to impress others, but to honor yourself. Raise them because you know deep down the man you were born to be. The man who doesn't just talk about potential, but embodies it. And every time you tolerate weakness, laziness, or excuse-making, you bury that man. You trade your future for momentary ease. But you can reverse it. You can draw a line. Today, not a loud external declaration, a quiet internal contract. I do not do average. I do not chase. I attract by being aligned. I don't wait to be asked. I deliver because it is who I am. So demand more of yourself, especially when no one else does, especially when it's hard, because that is when your standard is tested. And that is when the man you're meant to be is forged. Not in the big wins, but in the silent, stubborn refusal to live beneath your potential. You know what you're capable of, so stop living below it. You are closer than you think, but only if you keep going. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they quit too soon. They give up in the final stretch, the place where it hurts the most, where progress seems invisible, where the darkness feels thickest, and they mistake that darkness for failure, when in truth, it's the shadow of breakthrough approaching. The final mile is always the most brutal. It's deceptive. It feels like you're going backward. Your mind starts to scream, "What's the point?" The excitement that once carried you fades. The validation you hoped for doesn't show up, and all that remains is the silence and the weight of your own doubt. That's where most men fall, not because they couldn't keep going, but because they convinced themselves it wasn't working. But you must understand, that's the test. That final mile is where the line is drawn. On one side, the many who turned back. On the other, the few who kept going. The few who understood that pain is not the end. It is a signal that you are nearing the edge of your old limits. The moment when it feels hardest to continue, that is precisely the moment you are closest to growth, to breakthrough, to everything you set out for. Have you ever looked back at a chapter in your life and realized if you had just pushed a little longer, something would have changed? A door might have opened? A result might have surfaced? That's the cruelty of quitting too early. You don't quit with closure, you quit with questions, with what ifs. And those questions don't fade, they haunt. Imagine this. A man digs in a dry desert, searching for water. He strikes the ground over and over, each time nothing. No sign of moisture. He grows tired, discouraged, and eventually he gives up, one strike too soon, just inches from the underground spring. Another man comes days later, finds the same hole, strikes once, and water flows. But was it the final strike that did it? No. It was all the silent effort before it that softened the ground. That made the breakthrough possible. That's what most people miss. The reward doesn't always arrive in equal measure to your immediate effort. Sometimes it's delayed. Sometimes the payoff waits until it knows you're serious, until it sees that you will not abandon your mission just because it didn't arrive on your preferred schedule. Ask yourself now, what if everything you've been grinding for is on the other side of this next step? What if your next breath of discipline is the one that unlocks momentum? Can you afford to stop now? Can you live with knowing you may have been one decision away from everything changing? The world is full of almosts. Men who almost made it, who almost turned the corner, who almost changed their life. But the truth is, almost leaves no legacy. Almost builds nothing. Almost is the language of regret. Let that not be your story. Let your story be one of relentless pursuit, one of endurance, of grit, of quiet, stubborn, faithful forward motion, even when every part of you wants to sit down and call it done. It is in those final, brutal stretches that legends are made, not when the sun is shining, not when the applause is loud, but when it's dark, when your legs shake, when your vision blurs, and still you move. You move. Not because it's easy, but because you understand what the difficulty means. It means you are near. It means resistance is fighting hardest because you're about to win. It means the old version of you is dying, and greatness is about to be born. So whatever path you're on, don't stop now. Whatever mountain you're climbing, don't turn back now. Let others quit. Let others rationalize. You are not them. You are the man who keeps walking, even through the storm, even through the silence, because you know the hardest step is the one that matters most. And once you take it, the world shifts. Your mind believes what you tell it. So speak with power. Every word you speak is a seed. Not just in conversation, but especially in solitude, especially in those quiet, hidden moments when no one else is around, when it's just you and your own mind. Those words, those internal declarations don't vanish into thin air. They settle, they take root, and over time they grow into the framework of your thoughts. Those thoughts repeated enough harden into beliefs, and your beliefs, they become the blueprint of your behavior. So when you wake up and mumble, "I'm tired," or sigh, "I don't feel like it," or worse, whisper to yourself, "I'm not good enough," you're not just expressing a feeling, you're planting weakness. You're training your mind to bow down to limitation. You're constructing a life built around your fears, your doubts, and your temporary discomfort. And then you wonder why you struggle to rise, why you fall short, why you can't seem to break the cycle. Understand this. Your mind listens to everything you say, especially the phrases you think don't matter, especially the ones you repeat so often they slip under your awareness. Words like, I'll try, or maybe later, or we'll see. These are the phrases of hesitation, the vocabulary of the almost committed. The man who speaks like this is already negotiating with failure before he's even begun. But words can also be forged into weapons, tools, engines. Imagine a man rising before the sun. He looks at his reflection and says, today I lead, today I produce, today I win. Those words are not fluff. They are anchors. They tell the mind where to go. They tell the body what to do. That man hasn't even left his house, but he has already stepped into victory. Not because his life is easy, not because the world will roll over for him, but because he believes in his ability to bend the day to his will. That belief doesn't arrive by accident. It's built one word at a time, repeated, carved, etched into identity. And if you are not consciously choosing the words you speak to yourself, you are unconsciously accepting. You cannot speak like a loser and expect to walk like a winner. You cannot curse your circumstances and expect to bless your outcomes. You cannot poison your mind each morning and expect your day to overflow with clarity, confidence, and fire. The mind obeys the loudest voice, and if the loudest voice is your own voice of doubt, guess what direction your life will take? Ask yourself now, what phrases do you repeat when no one else is around? What words fill your head when you fail, when you feel pressure, when the plan doesn't go perfectly? If those words aren't for you, they're against you. And the most dangerous enemy is not the one in the world, it's the one inside your own head. You must train your tongue to speak power, discipline, resilience. Speak the identity you want to grow into, not the one you're trying to escape. Say, I overcome. Say, I finish what I start. Say, I am built for pressure. And say it even when you don't feel it, especially when you don't feel it. Because repetition precedes belief, and belief precedes breakthrough. This isn't magic, this isn't superstition, it's momentum. Words spark direction, they summon attitude, they light a fire that can turn a slow morning into a productive day. But only if you speak them with conviction, and only if you do it consistently. This is your new command. Speak as the man you are becoming. Let your words set the tone. Let them be fierce, steady, and certain. You don't need to scream. You don't need to impress. You just need to be intentional. Speak like a man with purpose, not a man begging for permission. Do this day after day, and the shift will happen. Your thoughts will grow stronger. Your posture will change. Your actions will begin to align. And the world, though it may not notice at first, will eventually turn its head, because the world always listens to a man who believes himself first. So speak with strength, speak with honor, speak with clarity. And when your mind starts to drift, to doubt, to decay, interrupt it. Say the words again, not softly, not passively, but with force, because the future listens, and it responds to a man who commands it, one word at a time. No one is coming to push you. That's your job. You wait, quietly, patiently, silently, hoping that someone, anyone, will notice your potential, that they will walk into your life, place a firm hand on your shoulder, and say the words you've been aching to hear. Now is your time. You wait for the mentor to call, for the boss to promote, for the parent to approve, for the friend to motivate. You believe that when that voice finally arrives, you'll rise, you'll act, you'll begin. But what if no one comes? What if the only voice you will ever hear, the only push you'll ever get, is the one echoing inside your own chest? That's the test most men fail, not because they lack ability, not because they lack knowledge, but because they never realize no one is coming to lead them. No cavalry is riding in. No mentor will climb into your skin and drag you toward greatness. No father figure will appear out of the clouds to command you to rise. If that voice is missing from your life, you must become it. You must command yourself. You must give yourself the order to move. This is the path of the man who leads himself. He wakes not because a bell rings, but because purpose stirs within him. He begins his work not for recognition, but because excellence demands it. And he is not prodded, he is not managed, he is not motivated by praise. His fire is internal, and it burns without applause. Think back to your last day of delay. How many hours did you forfeit to hesitation? How many quiet moments were lost because you were waiting for direction, for affirmation, for perfect conditions? Those lost moments are irreversible. The clock didn't pause while you gathered confidence. Time marched forward, and so did opportunity. Picture a man walking through dense fog. He cannot see the path. There are no signs, no arrows, no footsteps to follow. Most would stop. Most would sit down and wait for the weather to change, but not him. He walks anyway, step after step, not because he knows the way, but because he knows motion creates clarity. He trusts that moving forward will eventually reveal the road. That's not recklessness, that's self-leadership. That's what separates the man who wanders from the man who arrives. Ask yourself with raw honesty, have you become addicted to being told what to do? Have you outsourced your drive to someone else's permission? Have you confused obedience for discipline? There is a difference. Obedience waits to be instructed. Discipline acts before instruction is even offered. You must force yourself to become your own authority. This doesn't mean rejecting wisdom. It means refusing to make progress dependent on another person's validation. Set your own expectations, set your own schedule, set your own wage, not in dollars, but in effort. Demand more from yourself, not someday, but now. Because here's the truth. The man who waits to be told when to begin will never begin on time. He will always be late to his own potential. And by the time the world sees his value, the window will have already begun to close. Life rewards the self-starter, the initiator, the man who stands up and says, I go now, whether anyone claps or not. The men who build empires, be it businesses, legacies, or inner fortresses, do not operate like machines waiting to be powered on. They are self-winding, self-commanding. They give orders to themselves, and because of that, their lives move forward, higher, stronger. If you want to be that kind of man, start here. Give yourself the order to begin, even if you're unsure, even if the path isn't clear, even if fear whispers louder than courage. Start anyway, because motion silences fear. Action builds belief. The man who moves without waiting becomes the man others follow. Do not look around for leadership, become it. In your home, in your thoughts, in your craft, in your silence, especially in your silence. Because when the world is quiet, your internal voice must rise above the noise of doubt and say, I move forward now. Your life is not waiting for permission. It is waiting for a decision, and that decision, like every great act of discipline, must begin with you. Fear will always be there. Move anyway. Fear is not your enemy. It's not a flaw to be eliminated or a weakness to be ashamed of. Fear is evidence that you've come face to face with something that matters. It signals the edge of growth, the threshold of change, the doorway to a life that stretches beyond your current comfort. It's not fear that ruins men, it's paralysis. It's the surrender to that fear, the stillness that follows the shaking, the silence that follows the doubt. Every strong man you admire has felt fear. Every leader, every builder, every creator has heard that voice whisper, what if you fail? What if you're not enough? What if they laugh, reject, walk away? Fear is not selective. It does not only visit the weak. In fact, the stronger your calling, the louder fear may become, because the stakes are higher. The path matters more. But the difference is this. Those who rise don't wait for fear to leave. They move while it speaks. You've been sold a lie, one that says courage is the absence of fear, that you must wait to feel bold, wait to feel confident, wait to feel certain before you act. But that is not courage. That's fantasy. Courage is not a lack of fear. It is obedience to a higher vision, one louder, stronger, more persistent than the noise of anxiety in your head. It is the commitment to move in the direction of your purpose even when your knees tremble and your breath shortens. Imagine a man standing at the edge of a cliff, not one that leads to death, but one that leads to his destiny. Behind him is everything he's already known, comfort, safety, routine. In front of him is the unknown, possibility, challenge, growth. He trembles. His body urges him to step back. His mind paints pictures of failure. But then, with one deep breath, he steps forward, not because the fear is gone, but because he knows what's on the other side is greater than the comfort he's leaving behind. That's courage. Now pause, ask yourself, has fear been making your decisions? Has it become your invisible advisor, shaping your life by what it warns you to avoid? Look at the choices you've made or avoided. How many dreams have you shelved because fear told you they were too risky? How many conversations have you avoided because fear convinced you they'd end in rejection? How many days have you wasted waiting for the fear to go away? What would you do today if fear wasn't a factor? What would you build? What truth would you speak? Who would you become? if you didn't pause every time fear whispered in your ear. Here's the truth you must swallow if you ever want to break free. Fear never fully disappears. You do not outgrow it. You outgrow your need to be ruled by it. The man who waits for fear to leave will still be waiting when his time runs out. But the man who moves anyway, he finds out what fear really is. Not a wall, not a prison, not an enemy, just a shadow, a shape that seems massive until you walk through it and realize there was nothing solid there. Just hesitation, just illusion. So force yourself to act, especially when fear speaks, especially when doubt rises, because that is when it matters most. Not when everything is lined up and easy, not when applause is guaranteed, but when the stakes are real, the outcome uncertain, and your body says no while your spirit says yes. Move then, action changes everything. The second you begin, you tell your mind who's in charge. You shrink fear down to its actual size. You reclaim your power, and over time, with enough reps, fear loses its grip, not because it's gone, but because it no longer decides for you. Don't let your story be one of almost, of opportunities past, of gifts buried. Let it be the story of a man who trembled but walked anyway. A man who felt fear in his chest but didn't let it chain his hands. A man who faced uncertainty not with arrogance, but with conviction. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need to feel brave. You only need to feel your purpose pulling you forward. And let that be enough. Step, speak, begin, even with your heart racing and your voice shaking, because once you act, once you move, you'll realize fear never had the power to stop you. Only you did. Consistency outperforms intensity every time. One grand gesture won't change your life. Not a single all-nighter, not 1 week of clean eating, not a dramatic, defiant vow to turn it all around. These moments feel powerful, they feel heroic, but they fade. They leave you exhausted, empty, and often right back where you started. Because the truth is, life doesn't bend for bursts of energy. It yields to consistency. Men often believe that greatness demands something massive, something fierce, that to rise, they must summon a violent storm of discipline and effort. But greatness isn't loud. It doesn't always look impressive. True strength is found in the quiet decision to do the right thing again, long after the thrill has disappeared. It's in the man who wakes up before dawn today, just as he did yesterday, and just as he'll do tomorrow. Not because he feels like it, but because that's the standard. That's the rhythm. That's the law he lives by. Discipline is not a spark. It is a fire. And like all fires, it must be fed daily. Not with hype, not with fleeting motivation, but with choice. A steady stream of choices that look small from the outside, but internally, they are the hammer striking the steel of your character, shaping something unbreakable. Think back. You've had seasons of fire before. Weeks when you were locked in, reading, writing, running, creating. You felt unstoppable. You told yourself, this is it. You believed you'd finally arrived, but then it faded. You missed one day, then two, and before you knew it, the storm passed, and you were left in stillness. Not because you didn't care, not because you weren't capable, but because you relied on intensity, not on systems. Passion gave you momentum, but you didn't give that momentum a structure to live in. Now picture a man chopping wood, not frantically, not with rage, just steady, measured strikes. Each swing looks small, insignificant, but he doesn't stop to check his progress after every hit. He doesn't need to feel a sense of achievement in every moment. He simply strikes. And because he keeps striking, the tree always falls. Not from one blow, but from the weight of all of them combined. This is how lives are changed. Not by chasing motivation, but by obeying rhythm. By showing up when you're tired. By practicing when you're uninspired. By choosing again and again the action that serves your future, even when your present self is begging to quit. Ask yourself now, what is the small daily action you've been avoiding? You know what it is. That habit you intend to begin. That behavior you know would compound into strength, clarity, and control. If only you committed. Maybe it's reading for 30 minutes. Maybe it's rising with the sun. Maybe it's keeping your promises to yourself. Whatever it is, it seems small, and that's why it's powerful. Because small is sustainable. Small is invisible to the outside world, and yet small is everything. You don't need another bold resolution. You need a standard you repeat, something so simple, so unshakable, that it weaves itself into your identity. Because habits are not what you do, they are what you become. The strongest men are not the ones who make noise in short bursts. They're the ones who build, brick by brick, day by day, with an almost religious devotion to what works. They aren't distracted by novelty. They aren't seduced by the rush of new beginnings. They understand that true power is built in repetition and doing what others find too dull, too boring, too thankless. Mastery lives in boredom, in monotony, in the endless cycle of doing it again, not because you need praise, but because it must be done. That is the price. That is the quiet contract you sign with your own future. So make the decision now, not a loud one, a quiet one. Decide what you will do every single day, regardless of feeling. And then protect that habit like a king guards his throne. Because that habit, that small action, done without drama or deviation, that is your weapon. That is your edge. That is how you take control. Not with noise, not with a leap, but with one strike, then another and another, until the tree falls. The battle is won in your mind before it's ever won in the world. Before you achieve anything visible, any title, any trophy, any goal that the world can see, you must win the battle that no one else can witness, the invisible war, the one that takes place not in your surroundings, but in your own mind. It is a constant confrontation between the man you could become and the voice that tells you to stay the same, between your future and your history, between truth and comfort. Every man faces it, but few recognize it for what it is, the only battle that actually matters. You can follow every external plan. You can copy routines, mimic strategies, follow successful footsteps. But if your mind is surrendered, if your inner voice is an echo chamber of weakness and doubt, then all your actions will rot from the inside. You'll act, yes, but your action will be hollow, and the world will sense it. The man who dominates his world does so not by overpowering others, but by mastering himself. He is not led by moods. He is not controlled by circumstance. He has trained his inner world to align with strength, discipline, and resilience. Before he walks into the room, before he picks up the weight, before he speaks a word, he has already won where it matters, in his mind. Imagine that man now. He walks into a challenge, his body weary, the odds stacked against him, but he stands tall, not because he feels no fatigue, but because his identity speaks louder than his discomfort. His inner voice says, I was built for this. I do not quit. I rise here. And he does. He wins not because he's stronger than others, but because he is stronger than his own weakness. That is the power of internal victory, and it is earned, not inherited. You must ask yourself, who are you when everything gets hard? What story do you return to when life puts its hand on your throat? Do you hear, I knew I'd fail? Do you tell yourself, this always happens to me? Or do you speak like a man who's ready to evolve, a man who says, this is the test. This is where I grow. This is the moment that makes me. The problem is, most men wait for strength to arrive. They think confidence will appear when the path is clear. But the truth is, strength is born in adversity. Confidence is forged in the fire. It does not come before the challenge. It comes because you face the challenge and refuse to retreat. That refusal starts every morning. Before the world reaches for you, before the day gets loud, in that first quiet hour, you must go to war with your own limits. You must command your inner world like a general. Remind yourself who you are, not softly, not casually, but with authority. Remind yourself what you are here to do, what you are not willing to surrender, what version of you will not be returning. That internal discipline, those private declarations become the anchor for your day. They shape your tone, your focus, your endurance, and without them, even the best plans unravel. Because the enemy is not out there. The world can't stop you if your mind is unshakable. But if your thoughts are compromised, if you've already quit inside, then no external effort will matter. You will crumble the moment resistance shows up. So win that battle. Win it early. Win it deliberately, even when no one sees. Especially when no one sees. Train your inner voice to become a weapon, not a wound. Let it speak strength into your spine. Let it remind you that pain is not a stop sign, it's a signal that you are alive, engaged, becoming. And let it remind you that every step forward is proof that you are no longer serving the man you used to be. You are serving someone higher now, the version of yourself who will not be ruled by excuses, who will not fold under pressure, who has decided once and for all that the past has no veto over the future. So when the day starts, do not rush into the world without armor. Do not face the noise until you've sharpened your mind. Speak the words that align with your purpose. Claim your identity before anything else tries to shape it, because the man who walks into the day already victorious within, he cannot be broken. And the world bends, not to strength alone, but to the man who has first conquered himself. Every excuse you make builds a wall between you and your dream. Excuses don't always arrive with loud footsteps. They're quiet, polite even. They whisper their way into your thoughts and dress themselves up as reasonable observations. I'll do it tomorrow. I'm just too tired today. I'll begin when I feel ready. One doesn't seem like much. It barely even registers. But excuses aren't dangerous because of their volume. They're dangerous because of their accumulation. Stack them day by day, hour by hour, and before you even realize it, you've built something massive. A towering wall, not made of stone, but of hesitation, of comfort, of self-justification. And behind that wall, the life you claim you want, the version of you that you were meant to become, the dream that once pulled at your chest, and now it's out of reach, not because you weren't worthy of it, not because you lacked the talent, but because you gave it up one excuse at a time. The world doesn't need to punish you for your excuses. It doesn't have to. The consequences are built in. The world simply moves on. It keeps spinning. It keeps rewarding the ones who act, the ones who show up, the ones who dig when others delay. Your opportunity doesn't stand still. It doesn't wait patiently behind a curtain until you feel like showing up. It keeps walking, and the further it goes, the harder it becomes to catch up. You stay behind, nursing your list of reasons, unaware that those good reasons are the very chains holding you in place. You say, but the timing isn't right, and those phrases feel so convincing, so rational. But listen closely. Those aren't reasons. They are delays. They are decoys. And every time you say them, every time you lean on them, you reinforce the idea that conditions must be perfect before you take the first step. But life has never asked for perfection. It has only asked for motion. Can you recall a moment when you had the chance, but you didn't act? Maybe it was a conversation you postponed, a job you didn't apply for, a commitment you hesitated to make. In that moment, you told yourself it just wasn't the right time, that you'd circle back when things made more sense. And maybe you believed it, but that moment, it never came again. And the door closed, not with drama, but with silence. A missed opportunity rarely announces itself. It just leaves. Think of how different your life could have been if you had moved anyway, if you had spoken, started, shown up, despite the fatigue or the doubt or the inconvenience. That version of your life still exists. It's not gone, it's just waiting. But it's waiting on the other side of your excuses. Now picture a man staring at his plow. His field stretches before him, dry and unforgiving. He watches the sky, waiting for the perfect conditions. Not yet, he says. The soil is too dry. The clouds look heavy. Maybe soon. But the farmer next door doesn't wait. He grabs the plow. He begins. The work is hard, and the sun is unkind. But he moves anyway. And when the rain finally comes, and it always does, his field is ready, while the other man is still staring at his, full of potential but untouched. That is the difference. One man allowed his excuses to become his explanation. The other refused to be ruled by them. Ask yourself now, what have your excuses cost you so far? Not just in terms of goals, but in terms of identity. Because every time you listen to an excuse, you reinforce the idea that you're not in control, that you're waiting for something or someone else to give you permission to live fully. But you're not a victim of time. You're not a prisoner of circumstance. You are a builder, a decision maker. And your greatest act of freedom is to break the habit of excuse making and replace it with responsibility. Try this. Every time you feel the word but rising up, replace it with because. I'll train today because I must. I'll write the page because my future depends on it. I'll have the hard conversation because I refuse to keep hiding from growth. This shift matters because but weakens you. It offers a way out. Because sharpens you. It gives you a reason to move. Excuses will always be there, lining the road like friendly spectators. But you don't owe them your time. You don't owe them your potential. You owe that to the life you could live if you stopped waiting and started moving. No more waiting for clarity. No more asking for permission. The clock is already ticking. The field is already dry. The clouds are already forming. Now is not perfect, but it is all you have. Break the cycle. Replace every excuse with action. Because greatness does not bloom in perfect conditions. It grows in the soil of discipline, fed by the refusal to surrender. Vision is not a fantasy. It's a map. A vision is not a wish. It is not a fleeting thought you entertain on quiet nights, or a soft hope you whisper when life overwhelms you. A vision is not a fantasy. It is a force. It demands from you. It commands your behavior. It shapes your schedule. It cuts through confusion and organizes your life with precision. A real vision pulls you with such strength that ignoring it becomes painful. It doesn't gently suggest, it directs. Most people drift not because they lack drive, but because they lack clarity. They move, but they wander. They act, but without aim. Their days are full, yet empty. They hustle, yet remain stuck. And they wonder why, after all this motion, they're still standing in the same place. It's not because they're lazy. It's because they have no map, no internal compass guiding their steps. And without that compass, even the strongest man walks in circles. Strength without direction is wasted energy. If your days feel scattered, if your mind constantly jumps from one idea to the next, if your effort never accumulates into progress, it's not a time management problem, it's not a motivation problem, it's a vision problem. Because once you have a vision, once you truly know what you want, everything else falls into place. Not easily, but decisively. When you know your destination, distractions lose their power. You stop chasing every opportunity, every dopamine hit, every false urgency. You become selective. And in that selectiveness, you become powerful. Your vision must be so sharp, so defined that it cuts through every excuse. It must be so compelling that hesitation becomes a foreign language, clarity breeds decisiveness, and decisiveness builds momentum. There is no greater energy than a man who knows where he's going and refuses to entertain anything that doesn't move him forward. Picture a ship sailing into fog. The waves crash, the winds shift, the sky offers no clues. The temptation to drift is real, but the captain has a compass. That compass doesn't change with the weather. It doesn't care about the storm. It simply points, unshaken, unmoved. That compass is his vision, and because of it, he sails straight, through uncertainty, through resistance, through doubt. He doesn't need perfect conditions, he just needs to trust the direction. You are that captain, and if you don't carry a vision, life will offer you someone else's. You'll take what comes, you'll settle for the convenient, and worst of all, you'll begin to confuse comfort with purpose. That's how men get lost. Not in catastrophe, but in compromise, in the slow erosion of clarity. Ask yourself with ruthless honesty, do you truly know what you want, or have you just accepted what came easiest? Did you define your path, or did you just fall into it? Are your days filled with purpose, or simply packed with activity? You cannot build a legacy on vague intentions. You must name your direction, and then you must pursue it with unrelenting focus. Write it down, speak it aloud, not once, but daily. Sharpen your vision like a blade. Hold it in your mind until it becomes the lens through which you see everything else. Your vision should haunt you. It should interrupt your excuses. It should make wasting time feel painful. That's when you know it's real. When it governs your decisions, when it shapes your standards, when it keeps you awake, not out of anxiety, but urgency. And once your vision is clear, the next step is alignment. Alignment of energy, alignment of time, alignment of action. Everything you do must either move you closer to that vision or be eliminated. You're not here to be busy, you're here to build. And building requires precision. You cannot afford to live on autopilot. You must act with intent. Every hour, every task, every conversation. This doesn't mean life becomes easy, but it becomes simpler. Not because there are fewer obstacles, but because your path through them is already chosen. You stop debating every decision, you stop second-guessing your worth, you stop needing motivation because you have direction. The man with vision doesn't wake up wondering if he should keep going. He doesn't measure his effort by emotion. He moves, not because he always feels ready, but because the destination demands it. So if you feel lost, unfocused, tired of circling the same problems, don't look at your calendar. Don't look at your to-do list. Look at your vision. Is it clear? Is it alive? Or has it gone silent under the noise of daily life? Bring it back. Burn away the fog. Define it, declare it, and force your life to orbit around it. Because once you see it, once you really see it, nothing else will satisfy you, and nothing can stop you. A man with vision doesn't chase motivation. He moves with purpose because he knows exactly where he's going. The pain of discipline is nothing compared to the pain of regret. Pain is not something you can outrun. It waits for every man, regardless of strength, status, or circumstance. But what you can do, What separates the great from the forgotten is choose which pain you will carry, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. One is sharp, temporary, and strengthening. The other is dull, lingering, and corrosive. One builds you, the other breaks you. Slowly, silently, and always too late. You've felt both, haven't you? The pain of discipline, the early mornings, the sore back, the aching hands, the mental resistance before the first step, and the quiet satisfaction afterward. That rare peace that comes from knowing you showed up for yourself. And then there's the other kind, the pain of looking back, of knowing you had the time, the chance, the potential, and you let it slip. That kind of pain settles deep in the chest. It makes you avoid the mirror. It steals your sleep, not with worry, but with what ifs. The man who becomes great is not the man who avoids pain. He is the man who confronts it on his own terms. He chooses to suffer now so that he may live in peace later. He chooses to sweat today so he doesn't bleed tomorrow. He understands that the discomfort of effort is a tax that buys future freedom. That suffering isn't a curse, it's a currency, and it's spent either way. So why not spend it on becoming who you were meant to be? Picture two men waking up at dawn. The sky is still dark. The room is cold. One hears the alarm, groans, and pulls the blanket tighter. He tells himself 5 more minutes, that he'll get to it later, that today just isn't the day. His body stays warm, but his soul chills. The other man feels the same cold. His knees ache from yesterday's grind, but he rises anyway. Not because it feels good, not because he's excited, but because he made a deal with himself that he intends to honor. Now fast forward 10 years. Which of these two men carries peace, and which one carries the weight of what could have been? The future always arrives, and it brings a memory of your choices with it. Your future